All right, so here we are again. Welcome to Elaine again and Christine. Nice to see you again. So today we're going to be doing some of the text, section 1 of chapter 6, called The Message of the Crucifixion. And it's something we didn't complete in the course, so we're going to do a bit of a backtrack. We didn't have time during the Nice Letting Go course, but given that it's Easter Sunday, I thought it's very appropriate to look at it. There's a profound message to it, so let's dive in, shall we? I'll share my screen. Okay, where are we? Okay. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so message of the crucifixion, as I said, 19 paragraphs, so quite a bit to go, but some of them short. So we'll see how much we can get done. So Elaine, do you want to kick it off with paragraph 1, please?
Yeah. For learning purposes, let us consider the crucifixion again. I did not dwell on it before because of the fearful connotations you may associate with it. The only emphasis laid upon it so far has been that it was not a form of punishment. Nothing, however, can be explained in negative terms only. There is a positive interpretation of the crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear and therefore wholly benign in what it teaches, if it is properly understood.
Okay. I don't think that needs any translation, really. Pretty straightforward. So let's go straight into a summary. What is the what's he saying there?
Well, we're considering the crucifixion again, and well, you don't think about it because of the fearful connotations that was associated with it, and the only emphasis laid upon it. So, it's a form of punishment. It's a form of punishment, and there is actually a positive interpretation of the crucifixion that is devoid of fear.
Seen a couple of things we can actually yeah, it's really an introductory paragraph. So okay, so we've looked at the crucifixion before, earlier in the text, but he said it wasn't a form of punishment, but he didn't dwell on it, didn't go into further detail. So this is much more detailed exploration of what it means, what the crucifixion really means. Because it's been horribly misinterpreted. If you look at the way Christianity and most Christians treat it, they sort of think, they do think that Yeshua was crucified, punished for our sins, that he had to somehow pay the penance, pay the price for the sins of humanity, and God required a sacrifice, and took it out on his own son, which is rather fearful, or a very fearful interpretation. So some Christians say, well, you better be good because even Jesus, he was the Son of God, but look what happened to him. So you better watch out, Mr. or Mrs., usually to children, because it happened to him. So it's an interpretation that really fosters fear. But he's saying this is a positive interpretation of crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear, which is pretty radical actually in today's world. Most people would struggle to interpret the crucifixion entirely in a way that's entirely devoid of any fear, because our own fear and lack of understanding make us prone to interpreting it from a fearful perspective. So if it's properly understood, there is a positive interpretation of crucifixion as wholly devoid of fear, and therefore only benign in what it teaches. So it's wholly benign message. In other words, only positive, only truth, rather than any falsity and any negativity attached to it. So it's a complete reinterpretation of the ego's story related to the crucifixion. And the ego's interpretation is, Yeshua was the only Son of God. God required some kind of sacrifice, and so Yeshua had to pay the price for all of us. He had to die for our sins, and then we were redeemed because he paid that price. And now we don't really have to do anything except accept Jesus into our lives, and then we're saved. That's how the story goes, which is very suspect logic, right? Okay, so we don't have to do anything. He's now died for us. You can behave however you want. You can think whatever you want, just as long as you believe in this figure of Jesus, and you say he saved me. So it leads to it's extreme, a kind of mindset where, I'm saved by Jesus, so I don't have to do any work. I don't have to really work on myself and change my own mind because he did it for me. And that's a message that many of the churches have punted, because it gets people, recruits them. They come thick and fast because it seems like an easy route to salvation. When in fact, as he said, the gate, the way is narrowed, very few will pass through it. You have to be it's like the eye of the needle, I think was his analogy in the Bible. You have to go through the eye of the needle. So it's a very narrow way, a narrow path. By eye of the needle, I think the interpretation of that was like one of the gates in Jerusalem is called eye of the needle. So you had to bow down. The camel had to go on its knees in order to get through. So it was humility. Humility is required. Okay, so that's any questions about number one? Just a nice kind of lead in, telling us what's in store in the rest of the section. So let's read it.
For learning purposes, let us consider the crucifixion again. I did not dwell on it.
I think we just need to personalize it. I'm not sure personalization is possible, but see what we can do. We just need to change. So the crucifixion again. I
did not dwell on it before because of the fearful.
Yeah, we're going to use the I, rest of it as instead of you. So they should have not dwell on it before because of the fearful connotations.
I may associate
with it.
The only emphasis laid upon it so far being that it was not a form of punishment. However, nothing can be explained in negative terms only. If it is properly understood, there is a positive interpretation of the crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear, wholly benign in which it teaches, in what it teaches.
If I properly understand it.
Oh, yeah, if I properly understand it, there's a positive.
What it teaches me. So. Okay, so just read that from the top. Oh, that's nice. That's Sue and John.
Oh,
or one of them. I don't know if both will be joining, but it's a good time probably because people have been out.
yes, it's Easter weekend. Yeah, we've all, yeah.
Weekend. Hi, you, John.
Yeah, good, thanks, Joe. Yeah, hi,
Yeah.
Wayne. Hi, Christine.
Oh, hi, John.
Yeah,
Happy
welcome.
Easter.
Welcome. Is Sue joining us or not? It is breaking up a bit there, John. I think his internet's a bit suspect. Okay, so do you want to read that from the top, Elaine?
Yep. For learning purposes, let us consider the crucifixion again. Yeshua did not dwell on it before because of the fearful connotations I may associate with it. The only emphasis laid upon it so far has been that it was not a form of punishment. However, nothing can be explained in negative terms only. If I properly understand it, there is a positive interpretation of the crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear and therefore wholly benign in what it teaches me.
Okay, so let's read that in our normal slow way. I wonder if John's going to come back in. Don't want to hang around too much because we've got a lot to do. So yeah, I'll record it. So just Christine, I don't know if you've done much of this, but how we do it is slow reading. Elaine's going to read it, and then pause in between phrases. So she might pause like for learning purposes, pause for a couple of seconds, then you say it out loud to yourself. So mute yourself, say it out loud to yourself, and then just repeat the words after her.
Okay, I know what to do.
Okay, excellent. So just take a nice deep breath in and close your eyes. Breathing out. Breathing in and out through your nose, through this, and then just allow these words to kind of drop into this deeper part of your mind where truth abides, which recognizes the truth in them, and repeat the words in the gaps that Elaine leaves after each phrase or sentence. Okay, you want to take it away, Elaine?
For learning purposes, let us consider the crucifixion again. Yeshua did not dwell on it before because of the fearful connotations I may associate with it. The only emphasis laid upon it so far has been that it was not a form of punishment. However, nothing can be explained in negative terms. Do that
Want to
sentence
start that
again.
sentence again?
Yeah. The only emphasis laid upon it so far has been that it was not a form of punishment. However, nothing can be explained in negative terms only. If I properly understand it, there is a positive interpretation of the crucifixion that wholly devoid of fear and therefore wholly benign in what it teaches me.
Okay, you want to do the last one again?
Sorry, I've got interruptions all over the place here. Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, I'll start again. I'm trying not to laugh.
If I properly understand it.
Okay. If I properly understand it, there is a positive interpretation of the crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear, and therefore wholly benign in what it teaches me.
And so it is. Well done. Persevering through the distractions. Okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. So no need to apologize. Life happens. Our whole purpose of spiritual practice is not to be disturbed by the distractions. So, well, okay, it's part of the meditation. Whatever. All right, so number 2, crucifixion is nothing more than an extreme example. So you want to read that, Christine? See if there's any translation to be done. Let's read it. Read in the alternative. It doesn't look like very much translation. Oh, just the sun, right? So it's one sonship. So read in the alternative then to save time. You're muted. Just unmute yourself.
The crucifixion is nothing more than an extreme example. Its value, like the value of any teaching device, lies solely in the kind of learning it facilitates. It can be and has been misunderstood. This is only because the fearful are apt to perceive fearfully. I have already told you that you can always call on me to share my decision and thus make it stronger.
Yeah, we'll change that to and so make it stronger. Refers so to thus. Yeah, carry on.
I have also told you that the crucifixion was the last useless journey the extension need take, and that it represents release from fear to anyone who understands it.
Let's just clarify that. So, extension of perfect love, which is all of us, needs to take, maybe. No, needed to take. It represents release from fear to everyone who understands it. Okay, so he's framing it immediately in positive context. So it's a release from fear. It's the last useless journey. And now it goes into number 7, while I emphasize only the resurrection before. Carry on.
While I emphasize only the resurrection before, the purpose of the crucifixion and how it actually led to the resurrection was not clarified then.
Okay.
Nevertheless, it has a definite contribution to make to your own life. And if you will consider it without fear, it will help you understand your own role as a teacher.
Yeah. So again, it's kind of introduction. He's saying, you know, we need to reconsider it. Well, you summarize it actually. What is he? What's he saying in summary in this paragraph 2?
He said he didn't explain it because the crucifixion is a kind of learning, teaching device.
Hi, Sally.
It can be misunderstood because it is perceived fearfully, and he's now sharing his decision, and so to make it stronger. Crucifixion was the last useless journey the extension of perfect love needed to take, and it represents the release of fear.
Release from fear. Yeah.
Release from fear to anyone who understands it. The purpose of the crucifixion and how it actually led to resurrection was not clarified then, but it definitely has a contribution to make in your own life. And if you will consider it without fear, it will help you understand your role as a teacher.
Yeah, so he's framing this for us and saying, well, this, we need to reconsider this crucifixion in much more detail, because we can learn from it as everything. Its value is only as it's a teaching and learning device. Solely in the kind of learning it facilitates. Can it has been misunderstood. It's only because the fearful are apt to perceive fearfully. So people misinterpret the crucifixion because they're already fearful, and then they see the crucifixion, and supposedly the only Son of God has been crucified in this way. It can be very fearful when misinterpreted, and mostly it is misinterpreted. There's very few people who perceive it correctly as the liberation from fear. It's showing us the path of liberation, freedom from fear that Yeshua symbolized. So he enacted it for us. It's a misinterpretation to say that he died for our sins, and in order to atone for our sins. But it's about saying that he did this to demonstrate this thought system very clearly, and show us that there is another way of responding to apparently egregious assault, a very harsh, cruel, unjustified attack on him, on his body, killed, and yet he interpreted it differently. And so that's really where the message lies. But he's going to get to that. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So the idea that he was the only Son of God and he died for our sins to atone for our sins, and all you have to do is accept Jesus into your life, and you're saved because he's paid the price, is frankly false. It's not true. It's a misinterpretation of the crucifixion. And it tends to engender fear, number one, because you go, well, look at what God did to his own Son. And secondly, also a kind of maybe an apathy. I don't have to do the work then because Jesus has done it for me. So I go and I show up to church and I say I'm saved, but actually I'm not really changing my mind and correcting my mind, really looking at my own thought system and my own behavior carefully, because it's okay. I've got a get out of jail free card. Jesus has saved me. And that's again misinterpretation. You have to do the work yourself. He wants us to become like him on that same level, with the same mind, which requires mind training, which requires some effort. You're not just going to attain that willy-nilly without doing anything, unless you're very fortunate. Sometimes people do have spontaneous awakenings, but usually as a result of a lot of pain. So I think he's just framing it for us and saying, okay, let's look at this carefully, and this has a role to play in your own learning and teaching, as a role as a teacher as well. Okay, any other comments or questions on that paragraph? No? Okay, so summary of that done. Let's just personalize it.
The crucifixion is nothing more than an extreme example
That's fine as it is. Value like
Its
the lies
value
slowly
like
and the kind of
the-
learning it facilitates. Okay. Can and has been misunderstood. We personalize that as I can and have misunderstood it. Only because the fearful are apt to perceive fearfully. So when I am only because when I'm fearful, I'm apt to perceive fearfully. So shorten that, I can always call on Yeshua to share his decision and so make it stronger. Crucifixion is the last useless journey. Last useless journey anyone needed to take. Hi, Jackie. It represents release from fear to anyone who understands it. We need that. Purpose of the crucifixion, and I'll actually get to the resurrection. Has not been clarified. So far. Unless it has a definite contribution to make to your own life. If you will consider it without fear, it will help you. Okay, so definite contribution to my own life. If I consider it without fear, it will help me understand my own role as a teacher. Okay, just want to read that from the top, Christine, to make sure we're happy with that. Personalization.
I can't see.
You can't see, okay? Crucifixion is, well, from
Can
here.
you drop it a bit?
Okay.
The crucifixion is nothing more than an extreme example. Its value, like the value of any teaching device, lies solely in the kind of learning it facilitates for me. I can and have understood it. This is only because when I am fearful, I am apt to perceive fearfully. I can always call on Yeshua to share his decision and so make it stronger. The crucifixion was the last useless journey anyone needed to take. And so it represents release from fear to anyone who understands it. The purpose of the crucifixion and how it actually led to the resurrection has not been clarified so far. Nevertheless, it has a definite contribution to make to my own life. And if I consider it without fear, it will help me understand my own role as a teacher.
Okay. Just thinking maybe we could. Okay, so are you happy to read that, Christine? Just slowly, like Elaine did, leaving gaps so people can repeat it. All right, so just to the right one here. So just everyone take a nice deep breath in and out. You can close your eyes, allow these words in to come into your awareness, the breath, absorbing them on a deeper level, and you're going to repeat the words after Christine and the gaps that she leaves. Okay, so take it away, Christine.
The crucifixion is nothing more than an extreme example. Its value, like the value of any teaching device, lies solely in the kind of learning it facilitates for me. I can and have misunderstood it. This is only because when I am fearful, I am apt to perceive fearfully. I can always call on Yeshua to share his decision and so make it stronger. The crucifixion was the last useless journey anyone needed to take. And so it represents release from fear to anyone who understands it. The purpose of the crucifixion and how it actually led to the resurrection has not been clarified so far. But it has a definite contribution to make to my own life. If I consider it without fear, it will help me understand my own role as a teacher.
There it is. All right. Take 2 there. Okay. Right, so moving swiftly on to number 3. Let's ask Sally or Jackie to read. If you'd like to read number 3 for us.
Excuse me. You have probably reacted for years as if you were being crucified.
Oh, your sentence.
This is a marked tendency. Hang on. This is a marked tendency of the separated who always refuse to consider what they have done to themselves. His name? Projection means anger. Anger fosters assault, and assault promotes fear. The real meaning of the crucifixion lies in the apparent intensity of the assault of some of the sons of God upon another. The real meaning of the crucifixion lies in the apparent intensity of the assault of some of the extensions of pure with perfect love upon another. This, of course, is impossible and must be fully understood as impossible. Otherwise, I cannot serve as a model for learning.
Okay, so there's a bit to unpack there. Any thoughts on that? You want to give us a little summary and any questions? Paragraph 3.
Our projection leads to anger, because we become angry at what we've projected, and that then leads to a
Well, projection means anger. Interesting. It doesn't say leads to, but it means anger.
That's right. So in the emotion of anger comes up, and we project an image that fits with the anger that we're feeling. Is that right? We project, find an image that
but anger is let's go back to our diagram, shall we? Where are we? That one, maybe another one. That's the one I want. So the origin of anger, projection means anger. So you couldn't have this massive projection outwards without anger. This big bang projection of guilt and fear outwards to miscreate the universe without anger. So projection means anger.
I've never heard that before.
I've never heard that before.
Really?
I thought you could just project guilt and fear. Why? What? You project. Surely you project all sorts of things. You just project anger.
But this explosion. I mean, think of the intensity of this big bang.
Anger.
What do you think it is? It's anger,
Explosion of
rage. That's the big bang. So we exploded, literally went out of our minds and miscreated this entire false universe and world as a result of that explosion of a combination. I mean, remember, anger is underpinned by guilt and sin at the core of it. And then you have the fear that comes because you believe that you have done this terrible thing, that you have actually destroyed God, perfect love, and that you will be punished for it. So this intense fear arises, and then intense fear gives rise to intense rage. And you think of the intensity of the emotion that must have brought into being this, into existence, shall we say, not being, this universe, that massive projection of anger out must have been pretty intense to have done that and split the mind and actually miscreated that big ball of energy. So the quantum physicists, cosmologists tell us that it was everything, the entire matter of the universe was contained in one tiny ball. It was infinitesimally small, and then it just exploded outwards in this intense moment of guilt, fear, anger, and rage, and we've been in it ever since. We've been trying to deal with those effects of sin, guilt, fear, and anger, which is just a slightly watered down version of rage, ever since. So projection means anger. That's what he's saying. You couldn't have any projection. You couldn't have this projection of the mind outwards into a physical universe without anger. And anger is underpinned by guilt, sin, and fear.
Right. I've not heard that before. Like that.
Does that make sense?
I think that's beyond anything I can get my head around. I mean,
Really? I mean, just think of the intensity of the rage that must have led to this explosion. It was a massive explosion of energy outwards, which was a projection of thought outwards. Well, what, the intensity of that, what would have stimulated that except intense rage? And then we've been dealing with this rage in one form or another ever since. So when you feel unfairly treated and you feel that anger surging up, that's just a little taste of of the intensity of the rage of the ego when it miscreated the entire universe. It's a little microcosm of that rage. And it's constantly pinging us to try and recreate that. So now we're unfairly treated because it's not us, it's something else that's done it to us. This was the original delusion. The ego's like, oh my God, so God's going to come and get me, run away, fear, anger, rage, total confusion and chaos. But the intensity of the emotion is what did it. Because that intensity is what caused us to literally go out of our minds and project all this thought into some kind of tangible form, which was the original quantum soup of energy that has since been expanding and has brought into being the whole physical universe, apparently. And we're still caught up.
Where did this come from originally? Is there so apart from what's in A Course in Miracles, is this information anywhere else?
What, this idea of the separation and how it came about?
Yeah, well, you've just explained.
No, probably not, actually. I haven't seen it in other spiritual paths. Mostly they don't really understand. They can't explain how the physical universe came into being. Whereas the Course does. I mean, not directly, but he tells us the tiny mad idea of separation. And then if you cross-reference to science, to what cosmologists and quantum physicists are telling us, then you start to put the pieces together and say, well, pieces of the puzzle kind of fall into place, because they cannot explain how it all started, because they can't look into the mind. They're looking for some kind of physical explanation. Of course, at that level, there is no. You can't explain it through any other. You've got to go back to the source, which is in the mind, in order to explain it. So that most scientists and other spiritual paths, they haven't got this level of insight and clarity. It comes in the Course, and then if you understand cosmology and quantum mechanics, you put the two together, and it starts to make sense. You start going, well, yeah, that's what happened. Thoughts of separation, that's the trigger for the whole thing. And why did it happen? Because of the intensity of the emotion. This wasn't just, oh, well, it's just a bit of separation. It was like intense fear and guilt and rage projected out was what led to the Big Bang.
Projected out from the oneness and from God?
No, from the belief in separation.
But who had the belief in separation?
Well, there we go again. No one really did. That's the whole thing. The truth is, this idea was always and is still an illusion. It's not true. So
at which
the
point
ego
did whoever, whatever, start to believe in the thought of separation, whether it was true or false?
Well, they say 15 billion years ago, according to the cosmologists. That's when the universe started. So 15 billion years. But then who knows? This might be the fifth iteration of it. We don't know. That's the furthest you can track it back in time.
Sort of, amoebas in a swamp. They believed in separation, or whatever. I mean, whatever was going on 15 billion years ago.
Yeah, well, there was the mind. The mind existed. That At that point, physical form hadn't been miscreated. The universe didn't exist. But what happened, what seemed to happen, was a tiny mad idea entered the mind. Right? And then you say, well, who did that happen to? And the answer is no one. Because it never really happened. And that's the only way you're ever going to resolve it. So if you look at, I'll refer to this again, I've looked at it again, but I've mentioned it before. If we go to clarification of terms, introduction, it asks exactly that question. See, the ego may ask, how did the impossible occur? To what did the impossible happen? May ask this in many forms. Yet there is no answer, only an experience. Seek only this. Do not let theology delay you.
We don't really need to know. Saying we don't really need to know. We just
have to accept that it never really happened. Because that's the correction. If you keep going, well, who did it happen to and why did it happen? Then you keep making it real, right? The questions assume the reality of it, don't they? Do you see that? I keep asking, who did the separation happen to? The implication is the separation has happened. And I'm questioning, who did it happen to and why did it happen? The assumption in the question is that it's happened. And he's trying to get us to out of that, to say, no, it never did happen.
Well, if it doesn't, it seems to me completely unbelievable and like it wouldn't happen. So it doesn't feel very real. But we're having the discussion about it. So
well, we seem to be in a dream world, of separation. We seem to be separate people, able to have separate thoughts and communicate about these things. And that all seems to be real, like all of it does in the dream. But the dream world isn't real because the idea behind it is not real. So that idea of separation never really happened. So therefore, everything that has come from it hasn't really happened. See, that's the logic of this.
The bit I don't see the logic of is, so 15 or, just before 15 billion years ago, there was only oneness and God. And then from nowhere came this belief in separation, which didn't even happen. And all this, which also hasn't happened, appeared.
Mm.
So if we're in a dream, how do we get out of the dream? Because we can talk about it and we can see it. Do we just flip out of the dream at some point?
You get out of the dream by denying this thought of separation entirely in your mind. So there's no longer any belief in it. What got you into the dream? The thought of separation. So what's going to get you out of the dream is denying the thought of separation. Not believing in that in one iota, not one instance of it. No form of separation can fool you anymore because you realize it's not true. And that's exactly what we practice with the mind training. Forgiveness or letting go is the denial of that idea of separation in all of its forms as it shows up in the dream.
Releasing something. Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah, so sinking in maybe.
I've always sort of been able to accept an idea that we came in from, the oneness or whatever, into an incarnation, and we had lessons to learn, and had to learn who we really are. And that makes sense to me. I get my head around that, but that's probably all part of the dream anyway.
Yeah, well, it's as a consequence of separation. You only need to learn who you are if you've denied who you are. The lessons are only necessary because we've denied the truth. And so now we've got to relearn it. We've got to learn who we are, which is insane, really. Why do you have to learn who you are? You just are what you are, in truth. So the whole thing is insane because the sponsoring idea is insane. And then you have all these crazy paradoxes of, well, we don't know who we are. Now we've got to learn who we are, but we actually already are. We still are who we are, but we've forgotten who we are. So now we've got to remember who we are. And we've got to forget who we're not in order to remember who we are. And so we have, all these mind training. The mind training is only necessary because we've seemingly done this crazy thing.
Well,
And we got lost in this idea.
How do you feel about it, Jono? Do you 100% know that it's a dream? Do you 100% don't believe in separation?
Right now, yeah. But if you get triggered, something happens, then it's very easy to start believing it again, isn't it? Because you feel an emotion coming up, let's say some anger because someone's said something or done something you don't like. That comes up, then what are you doing in that moment? You're believing it again. That's how it works. So then in that moment, you've got to correct and go, no. We're not going down that road, because that thought of anger makes the entire dream real. It makes me real as a separate person, makes the dream real. It justifies the ego's thought system. It puts me in hell. This is not where I want to be. So then the correction comes in, which is the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation, saying, no. That's a completely false idea, false interpretation. You don't want that. You can let that go. So, do I get tempted? Yeah, sure. But usually pretty quickly, I'll do a correction and go, no. Stop that. Because we don't want to go down that road, because you know that this is all a dream. And you know that if you enslave yourself into the dream, then you're making yourself into a victim of this cruel world of limitation, lack, loneliness, and suffering, and then you die. So is that really what you want to do in this situation? And then the choice is obvious. If you understand the whole picture, you're like, well, no, I don't want to do that. That's insane and crazy. So no, I'm not going to believe that thought anymore. Whatever someone has done or seemed to have done in the dream, I don't have to believe it, because it's all false. You see, that's the message of the crucifixion, all of it. The guilt, the sin, the fear, the anger, the attack, and any of the effects of it. Someone's attacking you, killing you, murder, all this crazy stuff the ego sponsored. You recognize that none of it's true. So yeah, I think conceptually I'm very clear. But what happens in practice is you get tested, and then it's very easy to go down a road of making it real in your mind, and then you feel the emotion and the thoughts, and all of that is designed to make it real in your mind. And this is why we do the mind training, to make us very, very aware, highly aware, so that when that seems to happen and our mind is going down the wrong track, this Holy Spirit awareness of oneness, remembrance of oneness, kicks in and says, no, stop right here. This isn't a good idea. Stop. Correct it. And that correction is the miracle. That correction is forgiveness. And that is the only way you can undo this. That's the way out. Because it's not, unfortunately, it would be nice if you could just go, oh, well, all I've got to do is let go of that one belief and then I'm free. But it's taken so many forms. That belief has taken a myriad of forms in our world. And it continuously presents itself in your experience of this world. So you've got to keep denying it, which is what this forgiveness or letting go process is all about. In whatever way, shape, or form the belief in separation shows itself, you must deny it if you're going to escape from it. And that's the radical forgiveness we're studying and learning. Does that make sense?
It's beyond belief. So all beliefs are not true. None of these beliefs are true.
Yeah,
So we're returning to a state of no beliefs. They're just, it's a state.
yeah, correct.
think-
There's no belief in pure formless awareness. It just is.
You'd think we'd flip back into the oneness more often, wouldn't you?
Well, but again, you know, look at what we've done. The extent of this idea is enormous. This idea seemed to now create another mind, another consciousness, and an entire reality, false reality based on that, to perpetuate itself. So it's split our minds and created a completely alternate reality. That's how huge this idea is in our minds. So although it's a delusion, it's false, it's never been true, it never will be true. The problem is we believed it. And we really believed it, like hook, line, and sinker. We really went down the track. Went, right, that's now the truth. And the truth has been completely denied and shut away from our awareness. And now, based on this premise, we have to go down this ladder of separation, because that's what it demands. Once you believe in separation, then the logical outcome is the individual identity and the guilt and sin and the fear and the attack. And all of the unpleasant consequences of that: accusation, blame, complaint, attack, fear, sickness, suffering, limitation, death. All of that is a product of that tiny mad idea that we believed in.
So it seems very strange to me that when somebody has an awakening experience and they go into the pure formless awareness, that it's so difficult for them. You know, they go into that state, it shakes their world incredibly, and it takes them decades to recover from literally going home, isn't it? They're going home to this pure state, and then they don't know what the heck's happened when they come back into ego. I'm just talking about my cousin at the moment. He had an experience how long ago, when we were young, and when we were teenagers, he had this awakening experience, and he's still trying to recover from it now. So why, if it's such a lovely experience, such an amazing place to be, why is it so difficult to transition? It just seems like that would be the natural state to be in. So it would be easy to be in it, easy to stay there.
Well,
but then the ego.
It is our natural state, but the ego is very unnatural. And so if there's a lot of attachment to the ego, then to the ego, this is horrific. This is death. This is, you know, that represents the end of it, the end of its existence, the end of its life, its reality. The whole thing comes to a crashing halt. And so it's got huge resistance to that.
Yeah, all right then. So ego comes in really strongly when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge resistance.
That's what
depending on the strength of the ego, and you can't say for sure. Some people go into pure formless awareness and they stay there, and there's no, and they don't have that lashback. But often that's, you know, they've been doing this work for many lifetimes. And take Ramana, he has one experience, off he goes, and then he stays in it for the rest of his life. But, you know, we don't know for sure, but it's quite likely that he'd done a lot of spiritual work in many lifetimes to get to that point where he needed that one last lesson of really just facing all the fear in one instance. It was around his father's death a couple of years earlier. So he had to face the fear of death, and he felt it intensely, but then he overcame it. So that was, you know, that was his final lesson. He didn't need more. But for some, like, it sounded like your cousin, he probably wasn't ready for it. It was like some kind of random, who knows how it happened. He hadn't done this kind of work, mind training, so he wasn't ready for it. And Yeshua even says, you know, that the experience can be more traumatic than beatific if you're not ready for it. If you haven't done the mind training, prepare yourself. It can be quite freaky.
So that's
Because
what
your
happens.
entire reality is just deconstructed.
So that's what happens when people do ayahuasca and they have that experience, and then they just don't know how to place it in their experience, so they can't process it. Yeah, that makes sense.
It can do,
So-
yeah.
And so I'm guessing that's the experience I had the other week, where I unattached from everything, and then ego came in and panicked. I suppose that's a little bit like that. That was an ego
Yeah.
kickback. Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah.
Saying I'm terrified.
Let's make
right?
a bit more
Because
sense
this is the end of the whole thing. This whole delusion, which has been going a very long time. And we've been playing out the dream in 15 billion years. We can't even get our mind. How do you even get your head around a number like that? 15 billion years. That's an enormously long time. So that's how long your mind has been separated from its source for. I mean, that's unfathomable. We can't even comprehend that amount of time. So you see the
It's not
level
even
of
our mind,
attachment.
is it?
Hmm?
I
Not
mean,
our mind, no.
is it, we can't even really call it our mind.
It's not. No, it's a delusion in your mind. It's a false identity. It's a false entity that's hijacked your mind and has been like a virus or parasite in your mind for 15 billion years, telling you what to do, where to go, how you should behave, etc., 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 over and over again for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Now suddenly along comes an experience of pure formless awareness into that completely really says that none of that's true, because that's what you see. And the ego goes, oh, this is terrifying. No. We have to defenses. We've got to do everything we possibly can to fortify this this crumbling fortress of ours, and fear, anger, and so on, or its defenses. And so then you get a lashback effect.
What is a lifetime then? They are just concurrent thoughts. We're dreaming different dreams on many levels, and it's all happening at once, but we put it into linear time and it looks like there's a past, present, and future. So lifetimes are just multiple dreams.
Yeah, it's just a dream. It's a linear sequential dream, where the mind seems to be caught up in this this linear time sequence, which is false. But always beyond that, above that, lies, let's go to the timeline, lies the truth. So in the end, it comes down to right now. Right now, what are you deciding? That's what it comes down to, all of this. You can analyze your past lives as much as you like and say, well, I've had 100 lifetimes or 1,000 lifetimes, and I've got all this karma and whatever. But in the end, it comes down to right now. Right now, I have a decision to make. Do I choose pure formless awareness of perfect love, or do I choose separation and the ego right now? And that's the point that Yeshua brings us to. Saying, don't worry about anything else, because you can't control the past, future. The timeline doesn't even exist. The only thing that is real is right now. Right now. What is your awareness right now? And so we have a choice every moment. Right now, what am I choosing? Where is my awareness right now? Am I in pure formless awareness, or at least connected to it? So I'm still aware, I'm still perceiving the world, but I'm connected to this via this blue arrow, the Holy Spirit. And so I'm perceiving correctly. My mind is in its right mind, because I'm connected to my source. Or have I made a decision to deny that, and now I've got myself lost again on the timeline, disconnected from my source, and I believe that I'm a separate self caught up in time. And it's one or the other. At any moment, you're going to be in one state or the other. There's no in between.
We don't need to know all this stuff, do we, about the original separation?
Get out the dream.
We just need to keep releasing. Every moment something comes up. an emotion that's not helpful, we just release it in the moment.
Yeah, yes, but if you understand why, it makes it that much more powerful, because now you go, oh, but I understand the reason why. Oh, as you say, well, I'm releasing, and this guru or whoever tells me I should do this, but I don't really understand why I should do it. So it doesn't really make sense to me. So if it doesn't really make sense to you, are you going to continue on it? Probably not. At some point you go, well, that doesn't make sense. And the ego is going to use that to come in and say, oh, no, the guru didn't know what he was talking about. There's another way, find another guru. And then you justify separation. But if you understand this so clearly, you understand this, that's why we go back to the diagram over and over and again. You understand this, the logic of it, then the only thing you can do to get yourself out of the mess that your ego's got you into is to deny the separation. There's no other way. Okay, there's only one way then. Right, well then it's very clear. It's very simple what I need to do in every moment. I need to deny that idea of separation in every moment, in all of its shapes and forms. That's what I need to do to get out.
Every belief that we hold that creates the emotions and the thoughts is a belief in separation in some form. We just have to release all of those beliefs because they are the blocks to awareness of love's presence. And then we've done the job.
Yeah. So there's not one fragment of the belief in separation left in your mind. That would be wholly corrected perception. Right? Your mind is very clear. You're never confused. And then the transfer to knowledge will happen. God takes the final step. So this awareness is so close to your awareness that there's no block or barrier anymore. You just kind of merge back in there and you're one with it again. And then the dream's over. But he's saying you must train your mind to that high degree so that there is no belief in separation anymore. So no matter what seems to happen here, you're not confused by it.
So I did a release on a friend who slightly irritates me quite a lot this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I released him, so anything and everything that I see in her that I don't like, that annoys me, whatever it is. But do I have to consciously think in seeing these things that are upsetting me or whatever, that I'm believing I'm separate, or can I just do the release, feel better, let it go? I check it with kinesiology, pendulum, check it's gone. Or if I'm not actually going, oh, that's a belief in separation, that I need
No,
to.
I think if you've really let it go, then you don't have to dwell on it. Like, okay, I've really let it go. Am I in a state of love? Am I feeling that love and that peace or not? That's really the check. When I think about her, does any negative emotion come up? Is there any block there when I think about her, or is it just pure formless awareness? Everything's okay. So that's the question. If you get too much into the metaphysics, then the ego can use that to come back because it becomes conceptual.
Well, this is what I'm concerned about. So, if I feel at peace about the situation, which I do now, that is pure formless awareness.
Yeah. It's a reflection of it, yeah.
Is it?
Peace is a reflection of pure formless awareness. It's the condition, yeah. Condition of the state of pure formless awareness is peace, as one of our recent text readings said.
So there's only one mind, but we all have our individual beliefs within that mind that we have to release individually.
Yeah. Because the mind seems to be fragmented. So that's the illusion. Each mind now masquerading as a separate entity in a body needs to be corrected. No, there is only one mind. So all of those beliefs that you believe in that define you as a separate self don't exist. They're not really there. They're completely false. So you don't exist as a separate entity.
So I actually have to really release believing that I have beliefs. That's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. There are no beliefs really. There's only this awareness. In truth, there's only pure formless awareness of perfect love. Which again is a pointer to a state of mind that is way beyond words. You can't even describe it properly in words. It's just a state of pure isness. There's no subject object thought anymore because there's nothing else to think about. There's only one awareness. See, so it all collapses into the one awareness. All perception dissolves, and you're back in that awareness. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. Just stay in that awareness forever, all eternity. So simple. And yet the ego will make that the most impossible, difficult thing for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the end.
So your
It's the end of the ego mind if you go into that awareness.
So on your timeline picture, if we release attachments to all those blue arrow places, do they, if we really let them go in the moment, are they gone permanently? I ask because I can think of a subject and I feel very peaceful about it. It seems like further down the line, there's another aspect for me to release around it. So how unattached is unattached? How long's a piece of string question, but it feels to me as though I have unattached from the bottom timelines, but I'm still not at one.
Well, the only way of knowing is something comes in to test you, isn't it? That's what the tests are about. So something comes up, and then how do you react?
So I was doing some work on a belief that my mother didn't keep me safe as a child. So what I've been doing is I've just been checking in with that every few hours just to see, have I really become very neutral about that and let it go? But it feels like, because it's safety, and safety is all about the separation, isn't it? You feel unsafe because you're separated. It feels, although I'm releasing it from that idea that my mother didn't keep me safe, actually I'm trying to release all the separation, I suspect, because it feels vast.
Well, the whole situation. You're trying to release the idea that you ever had a mother.
Yeah.
That you were even a child, that you even existed in human form, that you had that experience. That's what you're trying to release.
Yeah. So it's bigger than one belief. Yeah.
Like collapsing the whole dream, just going, well, the entire thing dissolved because it wasn't true.
Yeah.
That's what radical forgiveness does. Because if you make it specific, you go, well, I'm trying to release that belief and I'm trying to release that belief. You can be busy forever trying to release, all these beliefs. And the ego might quite eagerly sponsor that because, oh, you've got another belief there, another one to release there, another one to go there. And of course, it's when does it end?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the question. When, it ends when you're willing to accept the truth that all of it is false. The entire construct of thought and belief, and you thought you were a person, and you thought you had a mother, and you thought all of this, and you're willing to accept, no, none of it's true at all. It never happened. That kind of collapses the whole dream. So think about, you're watching the movie and it's being projected onto the screen, and now you're watching the characters play out. You see the Sally character, and you see, her mother being unkind to her or whatever. Now, you can watch that movie over and over in your mind and try and release the belief, or you can stop the projector and just go, right, end off. It's a blank screen. There's nothing. There's nothing going on anymore. I'm not looking at the characters because there are no characters. They don't even exist. I'm just sitting in that blank awareness, and it's very peaceful. There's no movie playing anymore. And that would be the state of pure formless awareness. That would be a revelation. Yeah. So in practice, we don't always go into that state, but that's where it's leading to. That's where all this is leading to. You know, he doesn't want you to stay in the ego's thought system and trying to collapse belief after belief. He's trying to, in the end, get you to generalize the whole thing so much, so that you've done this so many times that you just kind of get it. It's like, okay, it's just not true. None of it's true. So the entire thing could just drop away. If you do enough mind training, and ultimately, I think that's where you'll get to. Okay, none of that's true. I really get it. I understand deeply, fully that the idea of separation is not true in any way, shape, or form. And I'm ready to just, I'm already there. I'm in this awareness. And although my sense perceptions continue for a while, I don't really believe in any of them. Because how can I? None of them are true. So the dream just deconstructs in your mind. You stop the projector mechanism, and very soon after that, if you're really in this state, you won't probably stay here for very long. Well, why would you? You just can't sustain the projection perception mechanism because you've dissolved it. And so then there would be a letting go of the body. Maybe that's physical death. Maybe it would look different. Maybe it would be an ascension. Who knows? If you're at the highest level, maybe the body just deconstructs. There's no more body, no more projection perception. The body deconstructs, boom, poof, pop, it's gone. That's what ascension would be, I'm guessing.
That's
Just the disappearance of the projection.
That's a really good explanation.
Okay.
Stop the projector. That's it. That's what
Stop the projector, yeah. Easier said than done.
it.
But you see where we're going with this. It's like, because you can get caught up in trying to let go of beliefs forever.
Yeah.
You go, well, when will it end? Well,
Yeah.
it'll end when you stop the projection mechanism, when the movie stops.
Yeah.
So that's what some people describe as the direct path. You just don't believe in any of it.
Yeah, this is what he's training us to do. Systematic and progressive. So, okay, well, to get there, I understand you may think you're human and you're an individual and you think you're a victim. So, okay, this is a bit of a stretch right now to say none of it even exists. So we start where you are. Okay, you think you're a victim, you believe in attack, you feel fearful. Okay, let's work with those beliefs. And so we start to question them, we start to undo them, which is this process of forgiveness as they show up. And then all of that kind of starts to climb up the ladder. You start questioning all this stuff. So you start climbing back up the ladder, back up to that original idea where you start to realize that, okay, this is just one tiny mad idea that I believed in. And the problem is just this one idea, that's all. So why couldn't I just stop that idea? I don't believe in that idea. Just end the whole dream and go back into this. But to get back up to that level will take usually quite a lot of forgiveness, a lot of forgiving of all the illusions that the ego spun, to get to that awareness of, okay, there's only really one idea behind all of it. And it's within my power to let go of that idea entirely. I don't have to believe in it in any way, shape, or form. And when you're at that awareness, that's enlightenment in this world. To actually live in that awareness continuously, that would be full enlightenment. So then nothing here would bother you because you recognize that it's just not true. Immediately, it's just not true. Nothing's true. You see through the whole dream. And that's why he says, eventually you realize that forgiveness isn't necessary because nothing's ever happened. So you don't need to forgive something when you recognize from the start that it's not true. But while we're learning that, then apparently it's real in our perception, and then we've got to correct it, we've got to reverse that and make it unreal. And that process is this process of shifting. from the ego to the Holy Spirit thought system. And that's why the mind training is necessary, and we do all this work. But in the end, it's designed to bring you to the point where you can collapse the entire thing. You can just stop the projector. There's no more projection, then there can be no more perception. Projection, perception collapse, and what would be left is pure formless awareness of perfect love and nothing else. But don't underestimate the ego's resistance to that truth. It's got huge resistance to it. Because that's the end of the whole story. That's the end of the game. It's the end of it, the end of its world, the disappearance of the universe. The game is over, and it's going, oh, no, that's too, no, we want to keep the game going somewhere. So keep believing in beliefs, keep undoing beliefs, keep doing all of this instead of just going, no, but it's all, in the end, it's designed to lead you to that point where you go, okay, none of it's real. I get it. So I don't have to keep deconstructing each belief and analyzing each situation. I can just go, okay, it's a blanket overall, none of it's true. And I see through the, whatever the form of the dream is, I see through that entirely. I'm not convinced at all by any of these projections. That's full transfer of training. That's the generalization of this lesson to every situation. While you're getting there, you're going to have to go through, some forgiveness, some letting go of difficulties. You get triggered, something shows up. It's showing you haven't generalized the lesson. That person can still trigger you. It means you still have the belief in separation resident in your mind. So then, okay, you let that go. You do the clearing, and every time you do that, you're teaching yourself that actually this entire idea of separation is false. Okay? So you're practicing that this one undoing, the one undoing of letting go of the belief in separation in all of the instances. So eventually, you just get it. It's a general, okay, I get it, and I generalize the whole thing, and it all makes sense, and I can see it so clearly, and that would be an awakened state, full enlightenment. And then how long you'd stay? Well, probably not that long. I mean, Yeshua only stayed 3 years. Why would he want to stay longer? It's like no point. I've done my work. I've given the demonstration of the one-ment. To stay longer would be purposeless. So he left when it was time to leave. And left a final message. The message of the crucifixion was his final teaching. Like, well, I'm going to show you that even in this extreme situation of the guilt and the sin of the ego and the fear and the attack on the physical body and the death in a pretty brutal, horrific way, even in this extreme situation, the truth is still true, and none of what seemed to happen to me is true. That was the message of the crucifixion. Final teaching to us, which we can remind ourselves of, over and over. Because if he could do it in that extreme instance, then why can't you do it? No one crucified you. Just someone said something nasty or did something what you didn't like. Much less egregious, much less of a challenge to let go of. So if he could do it, why can't we do it? The only thing that stops you is your guilt and your sin and your fear and your anger. Those emotions stop you. They block you from letting it go. So that's why he's honing in on them, saying, okay, well, projection means anger. If you are projecting out of your mind, you're believing in the split mind, you're identifying yourself as some kind of individual with other individuals going on in this dream, then you're in projection, and projection means anger. So this whole thought system, as he says, is a world of vengeance. what I see is a form of vengeance. But I can escape from the world. One of today's review lessons. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts, giving us the answer. As you give up attack thoughts, you have to give up the whole projection. You have to deny the whole projection. Say it's not true, it's not real. So I give it all up, let it all go. And then what remains must just be pure formless awareness, perfect love. Okay, that was a
Glad we-
long summary.
Glad we popped on the call today.
That was a 50-minute summary, but anyway, it was teaching, so good. But you see why we go over and over, because it's like you have these conversations and it's like a discourse, and then more reveals itself, doesn't it? And you start to go, oh, okay, well, I thought I got it, but didn't really get it, because there's a whole nother level of getting. And if you keep doing that, eventually you get it at the highest level. You go, okay, I get it. Like none of that's true. What a laugh. What an absolute joke it is that none of this is true. Which is why in the Zen saying that, you know, the Zen sayings is enlightenment is a joke. Because you see through the joke of it. I mean, what a joke we've played on ourselves. The entire thing is not true. And all of the drama that we've invented for ourselves is not true. It's just a complete pack of lies. Has never even really happened.
But presumably, it's to access that repressed anger that we need to let go of. We've created the drama because the anger's there, needs to be let go of within this, you know, fragmented piece of the mind. And without creating the drama, we wouldn't even know that we had the anger there.
Oh. Oh. So the only purpose of the
I was an
dream.
angry person, but I found out I have enormous amounts of anger. I certainly had. I mean, you know, it's got much easier to release it, and it's not as strong as it was. But I didn't even know that I had that level of anger in me until, you know,
until you get triggered. Yeah. Until something comes up to trigger you. So the purpose of the dream is so that all of this that's buried in our subconscious, the guilt and the fear and the anger and the attack and the rage is all buried. And we're not, most of the time it's buried, it's repressed. We're not in touch with it. So the dream, you get the trigger in the dream, someone does something, then you get the anger arising. And you go, whoa, okay, I'm aware that there's some serious rage down there. And now it's coming up into awareness. And now I've got the opportunity, because it's arisen, to let it go. So instead of just being repressed, it's come up, and now I can release it. Remember, it's all energy, just thought and emotion.
Yeah.
So now I can release it. It's like I've taken the lid off the pressure cooker. It's been released. It's come up, and I don't. If I don't do what the ego wants me to do and stuff it back down there, I can actually release it. So it doesn't go back down there. And so then my mind is clearer. And if I keep doing that, I keep letting the steam off, letting the pressure go, which is what letting go does, then in the end, it's clear. You know, I've cleared out that entire subconscious of all of the forms of separation, all beliefs in separation. And what's left is pure formless awareness, which is the light that shines through. That is my original state. And the only purpose of the dream is to help me do that. Because otherwise, how would I do it? If I wasn't in physical form and I didn't get these lessons, how would I do it? How do I clean out my mind then if I'm incorporeal? I'm not going to get the same level of lessons, am I? The physical, this world makes it so real that we get the lessons. We get the triggers that trigger us, that cause the emotions to arise very strongly. And we need that in order to see them and to let them go. So that's the only point of the dream. It's from the Holy Spirit's point of view, it's the mechanism of our awakening. It's how we get to see the ego bring it out of its closet and into the light of conscious awareness, and then let it go and clean out the closet.
Yeah.
So that eventually the closet's empty and we go, okay, I've collapsed the whole thing. There's none of the beliefs remain. It's completely empty. I'm just in pure formless awareness. And there's really no need for a life, a human life, a body, a world. I recognize there's just no purpose to it anymore. If I've healed myself, there's no purpose anymore. So that would be the final collapse of the dream. And we would simply, on death, return back into this state, and the dream would disappear for us. Well, let's clarify that, because Yeshua attained that, but he realizes the dream will only disappear fully for him when every single mind has come into his awareness. See? So he's now working for his own at-one-ment from beyond the veil, from the incorporeal state. So him writing this course and teaching us is his own at-one-ment from another level. This is how he works it out. Because he can only come into full at-one-ment when every mind has come into at-one-ment.
And yet, I think I may have misremembered this, but we can come into it one without everybody else.
No.
Right? We can be enlightened. Being enlightened is different from being...
Yeah, full at-one-ment would be the entire dream's disappeared. Every mind is returned to God and there's no more ego. The ego's disappeared entirely. And all of its consequences, all of its effects, the entire world of time and space has disappeared. That's full at-one-ment. That's the completed at-one-ment. So you might go, well, that's going to take an enormous length of time to get there. Maybe. It says, the last judgment may take millions of years, because it's taken millions of years to get here, billions of years, in fact. So it may take billions more. But nevertheless, you have a choice right now. You always have the choice right now of which self you're going to choose, which reality you want to be in. So you don't have to take another 15 billion years of knocking around in some kind of human or other form to learn this. You can learn it in this lifetime. That's the opportunity. Go back into oneness, pretty much. But then be like Yeshua. He still has an awareness of the separation. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to write the book, would he? He has to still understand the ego and how it works, but he doesn't believe in it anymore. There's no longer any belief in it. So he isn't given any reality, but he just has to speak to us in our dream state in order to awaken us. So we would join that Christ mind, which remember is an intermediary in this process. Where are we? Holy Trinity, Christ mind. Christ mind is the bridge. We join the Christ mind, we join his mind, and that mind is now what's instructed people in their change of perception, to give them Christ's vision, to bring them back into the Christ mind, and ultimately into this awareness. Perfect love. So we join him in that, and that's a pretty high state of mind. There's really no illusion left there. Personal. There wouldn't be any personal belief in an illusion. You wouldn't have to personally undo anything because it's all undone. But you would be part of the Christ mind, which is his mind, which would be helping people to awaken by changing their minds and their perceptions. So in some ways, if this is a done deal, you've already done this. We've all already done this. And now from that done deal state, we're speaking to ourselves. We're teaching ourselves, our future self, the awakened self, the Christ mind, is teaching us through this course. So you're teaching yourself in retrospect. Really. Do you get that?
Yeah.
So your awakened mind which is one with Yeshua's, is actually teaching you now in your unawakened state to awaken to itself.
And my awakened mind is my true self, well, that's connected to the pure formless awareness. And that's teaching my ego self to awaken. Is that right?
Well, it's teaching your mind, it's reminding you of who you are, and it's reminding you that the ego doesn't even exist. So the ego can't be undone.
So my true self, my connected self, is teaching me to let go of, well, teaching.
Let go of your belief in the ego, teaching your
Me,
mind to
that's-
let go of its belief in the ego so that it can fully awaken to itself and become itself again.
So the part of my mind that is my true self is teaching me to let go of the part of my mind that still believes in the ego.
Yeah, you could frame it that way.
Okay.
And you've already done this in truth. So now your true self is coming back in time, entering the domain of time to talk to your unawakened self and say, no, you aren't really Jackie. It's talking to your mind saying, you aren't really Jackie. Remember the truth. You're not this character in a dream. You're not doomed to suffer and die. You can't really get angry because none of it's true. Remember, Jackie, remember who you are. Really. So there's no real time. At that level, there's no time. You've already awakened. Now you're in eternal time, no time. And at every point in the timeline, you can access this. It's always there for you, which is really comforting. So you're not bereft, you're not abandoned, none of it. It's always available. It always has been available in any moment. The only question is, will you deny it or will you accept it? Will you listen to that voice of your true self coming through in all of its forms? The course is really just you teaching you to become you again. Yeshua was the first one who did it, so then he becomes the way show. We could say, well, Yeshua did it. But actually, he is all of us. He's just the symbol of the awakened self, the awakened Christ mind that's now awakening all of us. Coming into time at these points in our dream and saying, but remember that none of it's true, that none of the dream is true. You are only this. There is nothing else. So why are you getting concerned with this crazy dream world when everything's fine? You're in pure formless awareness, you're at peace, no problem.
Yep.
It's simple conceptually. It's actually very simple conceptually, but to live it is the key.
Yeah.
Can you face the traumas of this world, that the challenges that the ego throws at you, and go, no, that's not true. That's not true. I'm really not bothered. I'm not mentally or emotionally affected at all. That's the true test. And that's why we're all still here, because we've still got some lessons to learn. It's the application of this theory in practice. So to answer your question, a long answer, Sally. Yes, conceptually, but do I still get triggered and challenged? Yes, for sure. I do. Do I correct it when I notice it? Yes, I do, because that's what, that's the whole point. Saying, yes, I understand you're going to get triggered and challenged, but then correct it quickly. Don't dwell on it. And the quicker you can do it, the better, the more advanced you are. Why do you want to linger for any more than a second in that state? You don't. So we keep practicing and training until it becomes automatic, and eventually it's just, there's no trigger. Nothing can trigger you anymore. Then you're at the level of a Yeshua, then you become a teacher of teachers, and you're out of here. There wouldn't be any reason to stay. Okay. So where were we? Back to our
Line 1.
Thank you so much, Jono.
But it was very good.
Mind blowing, but just what I did.
My mother
Oh.
had an expression, ask him the time and he tells you how to make a watch. I think in your case, ask you the time, you tell us how to make the universe. Oh gosh.
Yeah, but you know, these rabbit holes we go down are interesting. It's hopefully helpful because it
Yeah,
gives you a
very
different
helpful,
perspective
very
every time, isn't it? Every time, and we've looked. How many times have we looked at this diagram? Many times. All these diagrams, but this one particularly, many times. But then in today, you get another take on it
Yeah, you
because
hear
that's
it
just what arises.
hear it differently every time because we're in a different place every time we hear it.
Yeah, and a different perspective on it. It's like, and I'm teaching myself because this stuff I don't know where it comes from. It just comes. So it's like the Holy Spirit, just blah, 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 you know, off we go, and it's going to deliver another perspective on this for everyone who's listening, and you know, for future, for recorded. It might just be like, oh, for someone that might just be, oh, okay, I didn't see it like that before. Right, now I get it on another level.
Yeah, because I've been
So
feeling all this like changing beliefs. It feels like an endless journey.
Yeah.
You know, helping other people.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But at some point, you see, you've got to go beyond that because that was what you needed to do at some point. But then at some point, you go, okay, it's time to go beyond that to collapse the whole dream. We're not talking about individual beliefs anymore. We're talking about the master belief in separation. That's got to go.
That's when you said turn the projector off, but it clicked. Yeah.
Yes. It's like turn the projector mechanism off.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to project it out anymore because there's no idea of separation anymore. So you don't need to perceive it anymore. So the whole thing collapses. The dream collapses. See? And the ego is terrified of that. It is fears that like you cannot believe. The amount of resistance to that is extraordinary. Because it's game over. That's it. End of. End of separate self. End of the dream. There's no more defense mechanisms. You just switch the whole game off and never to be switched on again. The entire universe just gets switched off. It's a nice thought, isn't it? Just switch it off. Chick. Blank. Finito. End. And it never really existed. It never even existed in truth. Because the switch never even existed. The switch to switch it on never even existed. So you switch it off and you return it to the state pre-separation, before time was I am. You know, I am that I am. And that's all that is. And then we completely, you know, there's nothing to block our bliss. We're just in bliss, just complete happiness. So then, yeah, the question is, why do we resist that? Why would you resist complete happiness forever without limit? Why would we resist that so much? And there's no good reason. No good reason at all.
I've just had a realization, actually. We were playing a game earlier. Essentially, you have to guess what the truth is from a group of questions, and you have to, you fall for somebody else's lie. You have to give a lie answer. And if you fall for somebody else's lie, then they get points because they've caught you out. And it was just extraordinary. We played it yesterday as well. And both days, I just kept falling for my son's lie. He's here at the moment. and
Right.
in this game. And I said, what's going on? Why I know him. I know that's the sort of thing he would say, and I'm still falling for that. And I've actually just realized that my belief is that I don't want to awaken because I don't want to not be here, because and so in me falling for his lies, he got all these points and he kept winning. So he said, oh, thanks to my mother, I keep winning this game. And it was all subconscious. But there's obviously a subconscious belief that I still need to be here to support him, which isn't true because he's very capable. But
Yeah.
that I just muscle tested it, and that is why I wouldn't want to awaken, because I want to stay here, because I believe
Yeah.
on some level
Yeah.
that
Very
I'm
good. So
required for him.
that's how it works.
That was interesting.
Mm.
You kept
So
saying,
that's
why did you doing that?
Saying something going on here, Jackie. You keep falling for his lies. Now we know.
They weren't real lies, but
that's therein
belief.
lies the problem with special relationships, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I spend so much time on special relationship in the course, because that will pull you back here. You want to come back because you want to be here for your son. You have to come back. You have to accept the whole deal of being human because you want to be there for your son. You see it?
Yeah.
So you can't awaken because you still have to be in human form for him, and you wouldn't want to hurt him because if you died, then what would he do? And that whole story keeps you here.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that before, but that
and that's
game
why the
showed it to
special
me.
relationship is
yeah,
almost the ego's ultimate weapon in this, because it makes the special relationship seems to justify this entire dream, doesn't it? Oh no, it's worth all the crap I've got to deal with because I've got my special son. And so I can't leave the dream because there's a person here who needs me. Who needs me? Who's the me? Separate self. You see how insidious it is.
Yeah.
And society will say, oh no, you can't do that. No, you couldn't just leave because, what are they going to do without you? But at some point they are going to have to do without you because you're going to leave anyway, aren't you? Involuntarily, maybe. Just might be in 20 years' time.
Yeah.
So in the end, people have to get on with, life carries on. So would it really make a difference? The question is, have you learned your lessons? You see, the only reason to hang around here is not because of the special relationship. It's like, I need to still learn some lessons there. Because I haven't got rid of my anger and my fear and my guilt and my sin. It's still, I can, every day, if you get triggered, you get an email from your ex and you get triggered, that's telling you, well, I've still got it there. There it is. It's arising. So, I've got more work to do. And this is the area, this is the domain where I do the work. Because I'm not in physical form, I'm not going to get the lessons on the same level. Guess what? I'm going to have to come back. I have to do it all over again. Because I need to be human, and then I need to have the projection mechanism, projection and perception mechanism going. And I need to have these lessons again because I haven't actually cleared out the subconscious. I still believe in separation. So that's the only reason to stay. To go, okay, I need to really get to the bottom of this, and we get to the root of this and undo it at its root and stop the projector mechanism, clear the mind entirely. And that's my mission. Okay, well, there's still some work to do. Let's get on with it. But I don't need to stay any longer than is necessary. I'm quite ready. If that happened tomorrow, hallelujah, that's graduation day. I'd be quite happy to leave tomorrow. That needs to be your attitude. I'm quite happy to leave right now. Forget tomorrow, because that tomorrow never comes, as they say. Be quite happy to leave right now, if I really was that clear, if I really understood it, there would be no reason to stay. And if you're not quite there, then there's still some letting go to do. Oh yeah, but if I just left now, what would people do, and how would they cope without me? Well, that's the separate self again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Coming in. So contemplate your death right now, and if it freaks you out, then you still got some work to do.
Good. I'm sticking around.
If there's any resistance to it. And then, okay, you stay around in human form, but there's no resistance anymore. That's the awakened state. Okay, well, if I went in the next second, I'm not really going anywhere. You see, I mean, Ramana, when he was dying, his disciples would go, "Oh, but Master, you know, we're losing you and we're so sad and all of this." And he's going, "But I'm not going anywhere." It's not even an issue for him because he doesn't believe in the body anymore. So I'm not really even going anywhere. I'm just going to be what I am. I just won't have a body. That's all.
I think it was Bill Thetford who, was it Bill Thetford or Campbell? I can't remember. I think it was Bill Thetford who sort of announced he was free to his A Course in Miracles group and then died 10 minutes later. He cleared everything. And then he had a heart attack and died.
Really? Interesting.
I think it was Bill Thetford.
Was it?
Look,
He ran out on the road and just died.
okay.
Don't know if that was right.
I have to check who it was. It was one of them.
He ran out into the road and had a heart attack.
Yeah, the day before he started saying goodbye to people, kind of knew, I guess. You know, he had meetings with people and said,
I can't hear you, Sally. Just direct your.
he said goodbye to people the day before, and then the next day the story is that he was in joy. He was absolutely joyful, and he just ran out in the road and died of a heart attack, which sounded quite good, really. Kind of like finished. He knew he'd finished. He'd done all his learning and everything, and then he was in that happy place, and went on a heart. Sounded very good.
Yeah, what a way to go. So, you know, he died of joy. That's a great way to go. Great way to go. He didn't have his heart burst open with joy or something.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, that's
maybe it just that frequency just exploded the physical structure or something. Yeah. And then they say it's a heart attack, but who knows? There was a guy in South Africa who said, I mean, he knew he was going. He was a Course in Miracles teacher, quite enlightened, and he kind of said his goodbyes to everyone. He phoned his students and saying his goodbyes. And there's Patricia. I don't know if you ever met Patricia. No, I don't think you met Patricia. It's like, it was weird because he phoned me the day before. I didn't really know why he phoned, but in retrospect, I knew he was saying goodbye, but he couldn't say as much. Look, I'm about to pop my clocks tomorrow, so I'm just saying goodbye. He didn't say that, but he knew. Again, heart attack or something. But so I think at a certain level of awareness, Yogananda apparently also heart attack. So he was only 50 something. He was like, okay, I'm done. So he said to everyone, like, I'm going in 2 weeks or something, and then he went because that was his choice.
Interesting that it's interesting. It's a heart attack, isn't it? Heart, where we said a love is, an attack.
Yeah.
The whole Course in Miracles is all about self-attack.
Yeah. But then, what was it really? One doesn't know. They diagnose it as such. But the medics don't really understand this stuff. So maybe the heart just stops. Okay, well, end of. Just stop it.
Yeah, that sounds a gentle way.
Yeah, doesn't have to explain. Just stop it. It doesn't need to continue. You go into zero state, pure formless awareness. The zero state. Well, there's nothing. There's no movement. So, well, the heart would have to stop, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And then the ego is going to say, well, that's death. That's terrible. But actually, it's just the end of the dream. You don't need the vehicle anymore. You just transcended it, and the vehicle's done away with.
Interesting conversation.
Very. Yeah, very. And as I said, I'm not really speaking. I don't know where this stuff comes from. It just comes. Kind of just downloads. So it's coming from a spirit, because I mean, you don't rehearse these kinds of conversations. It just happens.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to our where were we? Number 1, paragraph 3. At this rate, to get through 19 paragraphs, it would take us about 24 hours.
Right.
All right, so where
Okay.
are we? Is that good? Have we translated the whole thing? Or did we just do number 1?
Actually, we were on 3.
Oh, we're on 3.
Lines.
Projection means anger. That was the one.
Yeah.
Projection means anger. Projection means anger. So that simple line triggered all of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Anger
Because that's like the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Projection means anger is like at the tip of it.
Funny how
Anger
neither of us had heard that before, had we? It just suddenly woke us up a bit. Yeah.
Projection means anger. Yeah. Which is why, these in the last review lessons, there's all this stuff about anger and vengeance. Vengeance. The world I see is a world of vengeance, and I can escape from the world by giving up attack thoughts. And there was another one. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. I think was it. So why does he focus on attack? Because he knows that attack is the fulcrum. It's like the laser of the ego. Because attack means that guilt is real, sin is real, fear is real. So we're addicted to attack and being attacked as well. In other ways, it doesn't really matter whether you're attacking or being attacked, because it makes the entire thought system real. You can't have anger without having the underpinnings of the fear and the guilt and the sin. They underpin any anger. So it's like the tip of the iceberg. And then he's saying, okay, well, let's look at it and go deeper. And that's why the crucifixion is so powerful, because he's saying, let's look at the anger and the attack that so characterize the ego's world, and let's go deeper and let's understand where it came from. And that ultimately they're not real. So he says the real meaning of the crucifixion lies in the apparent intensity of the assault of some of the extensions of perfect love upon another. So he's showing us through the demonstration of his crucifixion, the apparent intensity of the rage. Okay, this is what the ego does. And it's destructive. It wants to kill, wants to destroy. So it's a symbol. The crucifixion is a symbol of the entire ego's thought system in one instance, right? All of it. You see how powerful that is as a learning device. And then the resurrection is like, well, that's the deconstruction of the whole thing. Because he resurrected, he's showing that entire thought system is false, because otherwise the resurrection would be possible. So it is his final teaching, it's his master teaching, which he had to act out. Words wouldn't have cut it, would it? You can't teach that kind of thing in words. They had to be demonstrated, which is why he had to go through the whole crucifixion and resurrection.
So you're saying the resurrection is the demonstration that the ego's world is false and the spirit's world is the truth.
Yeah. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible. Resurrection would not be possible if death was real. But he had to demonstrate it. So he prepared the way for 3 years. He'd given his disciples and his followers all this teaching. And then the crucifixion resurrection drama was the final demonstration that everything that he had said was true. And because he demonstrated it, they believed. I think they went beyond belief. They knew. Because they'd actually seen him in the flesh, They'd seen him dying. They'd seen him in the flesh. It was like, how can I just can't deny this anymore. Any doubts I had are washed away. And then he knew they would be inspired to go out and share the message, even to the point of their own death, because he'd inspired them so much. And so that was what then allowed that movement to expand into the whole Christian religion as we know it. And then paved the way for this. So you could almost say this, A Course in Miracles, is the second coming. Right? So he's aware that Christianity got lost in translation a lot, and all these false beliefs came in. So this is like, okay, I'm coming back 2,000 years later through this woman called Helen Shakman. I don't need to come personally because that would just be ridiculous, and no one would believe it anyway. They go, "What, you think you're Jesus?" He'd be crucified all over again, wouldn't he? Because no one would believe it. So he'd done it through a scribe and through the technology that now exists to perpetuate the message. So it doesn't need a personal self anymore, it just needs the message. So this is the second coming. You almost say, well, the whole sequence of events has led to this Course in Miracles coming now 2,000 years later. It was all part of a plan. See how that one-man plan worked? All part of a divine plan of awakening. And this is part of it too. We're having these kinds of conversations because of that whole plan unfolding. We wouldn't be having the conversation if he hadn't gone through the crucifixion 2,000 years ago. Which makes
Interesting
his whole...
that she was Jewish, and it was the Jewish people that rejected him, wasn't it?
Yeah, no accident. So she chose a scribe who was Jewish, and then a bull settler was Christian. So it's like, okay, let's show that there's no real separation, and that my message was true.
So he was a practicing Christian, was he?
Who? Bill Thetford.
Bill Thetford.
When the Course came, he was agnostic.
Okay. See, it's interesting.
He wasn't as strong as Helen in his atheistic belief, but he was kind of, well, I'm not sure.
Right. But he wouldn't have had knowledge necessarily of the biblical quotes that appear in the Course before they came through.
I don't know what his background was. Christianity's been around a long time. Those biblical quotes have been around a long time. So we've all had exposure to them in Sunday school. And so he may well have, but he was an intellectual. He was a professor of psychology. He's gone into that whole world, and religion seemed to be a bit kind of backward, really. As Karl Marx said, religion is the opiate of the masses. So maybe along those lines, hence the agnosticism or the atheism. This is for people who are not intellectual. And then Yeshua comes along and goes,
I agree with an awful lot of what Karl Marx says.
Eh?
I don't tend to agree with a lot of what Karl Marx says.
No, but he's right in terms of how religion's been used to as a control mechanism, opiate to the masses. True religion, right? Mystic. We're talking about way beyond the religious dogma that gets passed off as religion. True religion is mysticism, is a deep experience of the truth. That's the path we're on. That's a whole different ballgame entirely. That's not an opiate. I suppose it takes you into bliss, but it certainly awakens you. You're not going to be able to be fooled by anyone at that level. No, the ego can't fool you. You've seen through the whole dream. So whatever the ego's agents and forms are in this world, you just like, no, I don't believe you. So you're actually completely free. So it's the very opposite of the ego's control, which is why it's not welcome by many religions and governments and so on. They don't particularly want people to awaken because it's the end of control. Can't control you anymore because you won't believe anything we say because you just see through the lie. So it's complete freedom, and if everyone started to awaken, the society we created would be completely different. So totally different world. We wouldn't have the controls who knows? This is the interesting thing in the dream. How will it unfold? Enough people awaken, how will the dream change? Well, we've got this lifetime to figure it out. And they're certainly not coming back, but let's see, the next 20, 30, 40 years could be quite interesting. See how it all unfolds.
You're disappearing into the darkness.
Yeah. So
that.
let's finish this one. I also wanted to do the matrix. I don't know if you're up for that, to do the last half an hour. So I'd suggest we make this the last paragraph then.
Yeah, not tonight because you've got guests. So I was only really planning to come on for an hour.
Right. Okay.
I'll get Matthew to watch it. What?
Yeah, it's just the last half an hour, but
Going to play a game.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, but by the time we do all the commentary, it's several hours, isn't it? So, not for me.
no, it'll be about an hour, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because the last
It's already
thing,
gone 7:30.
7:30.
So it's going to be by the time we finish this, it'll be gone 8. Won't it? Okay. Right, where are we?
All right, so let's have a look at personalizing this. So instead of you have probably, say I have. Reacted for years as if I were or I was. You were. I were being crucified.
I were.
I were being crucified. The marked tendency of the separated was refused to consider what they had done. The marked tendency separated, yeah, okay, it can stay as it is. Projection means anger, anger fosters self promotes fear. So maybe we personalize that and say my projection means I'm angry, anger fosters assault, and assault promotes.
It doesn't necessarily mean I'm angry, does it? Because you can be projecting it, but it means you could have repressed anger.
Yeah, but we're still angry. Just we're not aware of it.
And has a slightly different meaning to me.
You want to keep it as what?
I would just say projection means.
How about projection means anger is real?
Well, the explanation you've just given is takes it way beyond the little self, doesn't it? It's you're talking about it from a metaphysical perspective. So I would keep it as it is. I mean, the realization I had when you were talking that I keep thinking about it as if it's me, and it's not me. It's way bigger and way older, and I think.
But it's still you. You did it all. See, of course it's you. Who else is responsible for it? That's the whole point. It's you. So the personalization is like, it's still me. I decided to separate. I decided to project. Projection means my anger.
Okay.
So we'll leave it as projection means anger. Anger fosters soul promotes fear. We'll leave it at that.
When you say projection means anger, it feels like a distant comment. But when you say I am angry, you really own it, don't you?
Well, that's the whole point of personalizing. It's like, oh, okay. So it's not some distant metaphysical theory. It's like, it's my anger.
I think there might be some power in owning the anger.
Well, I think that's why we do versions, you know. So there's a personalized version. There's this version. You can read that. There's value in that, and then you can read the personalized. Okay, well, let's take it down to the personal level and accept the responsibility.
Okay.
When I project,
Means I'm angry.
yeah, when I project, so it kind of gives you this, you know, if you look at all three versions, it should hopefully give you quite a rounded perspective on the whole thing. Okay, so yes, metaphysically that's true, but I need to own it. I need to, you know, recognize that I'm responsible for it.
Anger
Means
fosters.
I'm angry. Anger fosters assault.
We use attack. Assault is generally seen as more physical.
Yeah. I think he's using it in the context of the crucifixion because there was an assault. See the intensity of the assault of some of the extensions of perfect love upon another.
That's okay, we can leave it there.
Okay. Can it be my assault? Anger fosters my assault.
The thing is, we're not all crucifying others, are we? Or
Well,
even
yeah.
assaulting others.
You're being crucified, aren't you? It feels like you're being crucified.
My anger fosters. No, when I project, it means I'm angry. My anger fosters assault. Okay, not just my assault, can it foster assault on me as well. And assault promotes,
My fear.
maybe justifies my fear. Okay, so the real meaning of crucifixion lies in the apparent intensity of assault with some of the extensions of perfect love upon another. This is impossible. Must be fully understood.
I must fully understand.
Otherwise, you see, fully understanding it would be taking it to that higher level. Fully understand that it's impossible. What am I saying? Right? The assault on Yeshua and anyone else is impossible because the idea of separation is impossible. To fully understand it would mean that I collapse the entire belief in separation. It's really impossible. I must fully understand it. It is impossible. Otherwise, Yeshua cannot serve as a model for learning. So then I'm not really learning from his experience and the whole message of the crucifixion if I want to make it real, which means that most Christians don't. They don't really understand what he's teaching because they've made it real, they've justified it, they've made it possible in their minds. Yeshua can serve as a model for my learning. Okay, you want to read that from the top?
I have reacted.
Okay.
While we're being crucified, this is a marked tendency of the separated, who always refuse to consider what they have done to themselves. When I project, it means I'm angry. My anger fosters assault, and assault justifies my fear. The real meaning of the crucifixion lies in the apparent intensity of the assault, of some of the extensions of perfect love upon another. On each other, maybe. This is really
No, upon another, one other.
This is really impossible, and I must fully understand it is impossible. Otherwise, Yeshua cannot serve as a model for my learning.
Yeah, so that's the message. He's asking us to go way beyond our normal perception of the crucifixion to the understanding that this is impossible, part of an impossible idea, it's an impossible thought system, it's an impossible dream. So it's not really possible. Okay, so I want to just read this slowly, and then shall we call the this part? I'm going to ask everyone else if they want to watch the Matrix. So I did promise. Anyone want to stay for that? Susie, Elaine, want to watch the last half an hour?
Yeah, can do if everybody else is up for it.
Okay, yeah. Susie, Christine.
Yeah.
I'll record the audio so you can listen in your own time, Sally and Jackie, to it. We'll just watch the last half an hour in your own time. Okay, so great, we'll do that. Let's make this the last paragraph then, otherwise we're going to get too late. So let's just do you want to just read it slowly? So just take a nice deep breath in, breathing out, and just allow these words to
And I
drop
can't see the
in.
words.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll bring them up. Just allow the words to drop in as Jackie says them, and say the words after her in the gaps she leaves to affirm their truth. Okay, so take it away, Jackie.
I have reacted for years as if I were being crucified. Marked tendency of the separated, who always refuse to consider what they have done to themselves. When I project, it means I am angry. My anger fosters assault, and assault justifies my fear. The real meaning of the crucifixion lies in the apparent intensity of the assault of some of the extensions of perfect love upon another. This is really impossible. And I must fully understand it is impossible. Otherwise, Yeshua cannot serve as a model for my learning.
There it is. Okay, so good session, actually. We only did 3 paragraphs, but
It was brilliant. Thank you.
I think we actually covered quite a lot. If you read on, we covered quite a lot of that in our discussion. So it's kind of overall perspective on it. At some point, when we have a 24-hour, actually maybe on a retreat or something, we'll go, okay, let's do the whole 19 paragraphs in one session. By the way, Elena and I were talking about doing a retreat in September in Tenerife. So
Oh yes,
I don't know if you're up for that.
10th of September.
10th of September for a week. So think about that and let us know if you're keen. So we're just trying to make some plans. Okay, so I think let's end the discussion on this particular section. We'll have to finish it at some point. I've done the translation, so I can send that out to people so you can read it. tonight, and let's look at the last half an hour of the matrix. I'll stop the recording, and I'm just going to relocate into my room because where I am, I think the guy said he needs to work here in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to go. So I'll stay connected. Say everyone stay connected. Just take a 5-minute break. I'll stop the recording, and then we'll start again at let's say 10 minutes. We'll start again in let's say 5 to the hour. How's that sound? You're all gonna stay for the matrix.
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
Christine, yeah, Susie. Okay, so in the meantime, what you need to do is get the matrix going on your own device or computer or whatever, however you want to watch it. It's on Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime. You can get it on YouTube, however you want to do it, because I can't show it. So we're going to watch it together and then pause it, and then we have a discussion on the scene. So can you all organize that?
Yep.
Yeah. Susie?
Yep, I've got it.
Great. Okay. So we're starting at 1 hour 44 minutes into it. It's a scene where they've just had that huge fight with all the whole squadron of army when they're going to save Morpheus. And they've just knocked them all out, and they're walking into the lift. That's where we are. 1 minute 44 and a few seconds into it. So go there, and then it's got about half an hour to go till the end. 1 hour 44 into it. Christine, are you good with that?
Yes.
You can get to the matrix and to that point on your own.
Yes.
So then we just watch it, and I'll say, okay, so it starts at exactly that time, and then play it until then I'll say stop. Stay connected on Zoom, and then we'll just discuss the scene. It seems to work quite well. And then I record the little snippets, so that people can they can listen. Okay, so I'll see you shortly. I'm just going to stop the recording. I'll stay connected. So stay connected. Get yourself set up and comfortable, so you can watch it easily. And I'll see you in, let's say, 10 minutes. We'll start at 8. Just need to go to the toilet, set up in a room, get some tea and stuff. So we'll make it at 8 o'clock, which is 9 o'clock your time, Christian. Okay, so see you shortly.
See you shortly.